It's crazy. It's like 50 something degrees out on December 3rd in Minnesota. It should be freezing. We should have had snow maybe by now. Anyway, I'm glad that we don't, because I curse living in the Midwest. Anyway, so quick little video because it is kind of breezy out and there appears to be a lot of planes flying overhead tonight. So I made art today. What that looked like is I found one of these bread bags full of trash that I collect. It's basically any trash that isn't gross. I kept this one because it was actually, every time I went to throw it away, so I'm not very precious anymore. I tend to throw everything away pretty quickly. But I found it and it was heavy and it had so much weird stuff in it. Like it had a belt in it, it had an empty canister of toothpaste, had a bunch of birthday cake candles, crayons. It was just filled with stuff. And I usually don't reshoot anything, but this time I thought this one is neat. Let's revisit it. So I thought, what time would I do that at? Probably about 3 in the afternoon, 3:30 or something like that. My kids watched a movie and I sat out on the front stoop and photographed this thing with my phone. And what that looks like is shooting with the burst mode with the lens pressed right up against the stuff, shooting panoramics. So I hold the bag in front of my phone and then walk in a circle so that it's shooting a panorama but just capturing the stuff that's 1/8 of an inch away from the lens, and using the Boomerang app and shooting little video loops. And I'll make all these little abstract images. I don't know how long I was out doing that. 20 minutes, a half hour at the very most. Probably 15 to 20 minutes tops because my hands got pretty cold. And then my photo editing process was basically, once I finished eating, maybe I didn't even finish eating. I think I told everyone at the table, I'm not screwing around on my phone, I'm working. And I was selecting the stuff from the bursts that was good and kind of reviewing everything. There were a lot of bursts, it took me a little bit, so I kind of edited some then. And then when my kids were going to bed, I was sitting on one of their beds and I was editing then. And I may have edited on the toilet too. So a half hour tops. 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And then I just posted one. And I'll probably, when I get back, frankly, I'll probably post about 16 things tonight because in that time, I just shot a ton and I'm really stoked on all of it. And if I don't act quickly, I'll kind of like get bogged down, or I'll shoot a bunch of new stuff and then I won't want to revisit the old stuff. Some situation like that. So I got to post all of that. But the amount of time it took me to post the thing, like my processing is Instagram. That's my Photoshop. So probably took me 3 minutes max to shoot an image. So my art process then looks like 20 minutes of shooting, 20 minutes of editing, 3 minutes of processing, and then I kind of thinking I'll post about 15 more things tonight. So that'll probably take 2 hours while I watch TV. Like watch The Punisher or whatever. Got a little breeze coming, I apologize. So, what is the point of all of this? It's that I enjoy the process so much that I no longer care what happens. I'd like people to see the stuff, but it's fine if they don't. I'm not applying for grants. I'm not trying to get into shows. I'm not making prints. I'm not framing stuff. I'm not submitting stuff to websites or anything, I don't care. The whole process is enjoyable to me. Contrast that with how I made art in the past. I sat down to work in a very serious manner at my desk, and I had a clear-cut goal in mind. And if I didn't make something that met what was in my mind, then I was frustrated and disappointed and disincentivized to work again. But then I still needed to make the thing, so I'd go and make it, but it'd still be frustrating. By the time I was done, it was the thing I wasn't really happy with. And I tended to think about art in these conceptual terms, and in that I always thought of an idea and then a sort of end goal of that idea, a kind of image I wanted to make, instead of a process that I repeat and then I appraise what comes out of that process. And if I like more than I hate, I tend to view it as a viable process and continue to run with it. And so even though I went to art school, even though I made art, frankly, I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. And because of that, in a kind of vicious cycle, I'd always have a goal. So like, I'd want to do this thing. So then because I wanted to do the thing, like meet the goal more than I wanted to actually work on it, I always wanted it to be done. Now, I shoot the photos either as long as I have time, and then eventually I don't have time and I stop, or until I feel like I've got everything I wanted, or my hands are too cold, or it started raining. But it's done when it feels done, which is different than it's done when it's met some sort of goal about a thing I want to make or whatever it is. So when I worked in that more working oriented mode instead of what I do now, which is I think is play mode or fun mode, when I worked in that more kind of working oriented mode, I super needed things to happen, you know. I wanted grants, and I wanted exhibitions, and I wanted to sell stuff, and I wanted this, that, and the other thing. Kind of like how if you become like a finance dude, that you want the big house and the vacations and the car and the money, because the thing that you're doing is such an unbelievable drag. It's funny to think that you could do the same thing with making a collage, but you most certainly can. And it's kind of real simple. Like, I now find making art to be unequivocally joyful, gratifying, and fun. And that wasn't the case before. And because of that, I'm less attached to an outcome, which then makes me enjoy it that much more. And I think the recipe is real simple. I found this index card when I was going through my basement recently. It said tools, time, and beliefs. And it basically said, like, once you get your tools, what you use to make stuff, the time you have to make it, and your beliefs about making it, you get those three things in alignment, then the process should be enjoyable. But if one of them is off, then the process is going to stay a drag. Picking up some garbage. And it took a long time, but basically I have those three things in alignment. I work in these little weird between times. I work with the simplest, dumbest tools I can find: an iPhone, default settings, default camera app, default publishing mode, and my beliefs allow me to work using that time and using those tools without judging it. And it's funny because while art school is like a super neat experience, if there was anything I wish I could have learned in art school, let's get the menacing hood off. It's that you get those three things together, you get them lined up with the way that you think and the way that you work, and you're gonna get good anyway. And all the craft is nonsense, and all the theory is nonsense, and all the standards are nonsense. Because you get those three things together, you're gonna get good. Good meaning you make work that's acceptable to you. And everything else is nonsense. Like, nothing I learned in art school that I use today. I don't know where, essentially what I figured out is I like little chunks of time, I like easy tools, I like cheap stuff, and then I push myself within using those, and then I'm productive and happy. There's a big thing that people say, like, find joy in the process. That sounds like it means learn to love working, but I think that you flip that into create a working situation that no longer feels like work. And that's what I've done. Obviously, that's not for everybody, but I can promise you this: I'd be fine having $60,000 less debt and having figured this out when I was 18 and running with it, than essentially having to figure out working methods that run pretty much counter to everything I did in art school. So it's kind of a long one, and it was very mellow. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're not subscribing, you should subscribe. Please leave a comment. Share this if you'd like. Ask a question. I'll try and answer it. And thanks a lot.